The last full moon of the year falls in this week. We have a full moon in Gemini on December the 7th, Wednesday, right in the middle of the week. This is going to give a new meaning to Hump Day, since we have an escalated amount of emotions and action and energy right in the middle of the week when we have this full moon in Gemini. Now we know that full moons are a peaking point or a highlighted point in the transit or the dance of the sun and the moon. So full moons tend to bring out things, emotions, a state of beings, and it's also a culmination point, meaning like a boiling point, the peak of its cycle. So brings out a lot of things, not just for us to be aware of, but also to have a heart full of gratitude. So there is really good things that we can use this heightened emotional state to really connect to our heart center. However, there's times when the moon is more charged than others, and we can see the turmoil in the water really hit home and also cause other emotions that are more harder to process and not as easy to digest. And this moon happens to be one of those not easy to digest type of energy. Now, there is some beautiful aspects during the moon, and I'll discuss that. But let's start with the mood of the week. So we do start off this week with a very grounded, earthy Taurus moon, again, fixed in nature. So the energy of the week itself doesn't have a lot of momentum to change and start new things or to morph into new ideas. It's mainly fixed, and it likes to stay in its modality, meaning wants to continue with the same agenda, has a lot of endurance. So there's good qualities in the fixed energy, and that's actually one of them, the determination that it provides us so we can continue to follow through with the plans. So we start off the week with that very nice, grounded, fixed Taurian energy. Of course, we've been having Uranus transit Taurus, so when the moon makes a conjunction to Uranus, which happens on Monday at 9:37 a.m. PST, we get a jolt of energy, lots of ideas, lots of things running through our mind, and it does bring some change within that fixed modality. However, Uranus does rule another fixed sign, which is the Aquarian energy. And although Aquarius gets a reputation of being very futuristic and thinking outside the box, it's also very fixed in its thinking. So Uranus is no stranger to this fixed modality where we have to use our foundation before we can change, modify, evolve this foundation. So it's all about sticking with the traditional and then trying to modify and fix things in a way where we're still incorporating old traditions but making them better for the people around us, for the people that we care so much, or humanitarian causes and things like that. It's more, Uranus is more concerned with the masses versus an individual. Then we have Mercury at 11:05 p.m. making a square to Jupiter at 29 degrees and 4 minutes. So Mercury at this point has already passed the galactic center and already got reprogrammed with new information from the Galactic Federation, and When Mercury passes through this galactic center, usually the information that comes in is pretty noisy. And this conjunction happened on Sunday. It started forming the exact conjunction around Sunday night, going towards Monday morning. And whenever any planet travels through the galactic center, so through this 27, 28 degree mark in Sagittarius, it tunes in to light language. It tunes in to galactic programming that is more spiritually based, and it's evolving us more on a spiritual level, not necessarily so physical, but it brings in ideas, beliefs, and things that are improving humanity in general, but also improving you individually and how you see things, the perspective that you have towards your belief systems, society, everything that's happening right now. So it does bring some very divine intelligence. This is a great day to listen to meditation music, music that is connected to frequency, binary music, or any type of solfeggio type of beats and things like that, because it's really going to speak to you on a cellular level. So you naturally will be attuned to it, not even knowing that this is the process that is happening, because Mercury rules the mind. And when Mercury conjuncts this galactic center, it really reprograms the higher mind with the conscious mind and brings in a lot of ideas and changes. So we then have Mercury making this square to Jupiter, which then expands it, because Jupiter has actually been squaring this point for a while, and it actually stopped its retro at 28 degrees, so very close to the galactic center. It didn't make quite a conjunction, but very close. It was only minutes off. And when Jupiter squares this center, you can also see a lot of these conversations come up in day-to-day life. I've actually had several conversations with people reporting back to me that they're noticing a lot of people are going through a awakening type of crisis, and this is not new. What is new, it could be that it's getting closer to your circles, and that's when you're noticing, wow, like these people are experiencing things that I experienced before, and how can I help? Now you're more aware in how you can help, what you can do to assist them, because you were once there where you were realizing a new reality and you were tuning into this higher intelligence that you didn't really know existed. So Jupiter is awakening a big group of people right now because of that square, but it is causing a little bit of havoc, because when we awaken spiritually, one of the practices that I've seen that are lacking in spiritual awakening is grounding. We need massive amounts of grounding, or we feel like we're going or we're heading into an out of control spiral. And that's also very unhealthy, because being very spiritual is amazing, but if you are losing a grip of reality, and it's this reality, the reality that we actually exist in, that's not beneficial to you. So make sure that you assist those around you that are giving you this information, that they're feeling a kind of push, a new perspective, a new way of thinking and seeing things. And they might be showing some unregulation, like they're not regulated. Make sure that you give them some ideas, you guide them. Ground with water as well. Water can be very subtle in its grounding. It's not as strong, and it doesn't pull you as much as earth grounding, but it does provide grounding as well. And I feel it's much more softer. A lot of people like to take baths and showers because it actually calms them down. That's a form of grounding. So give them the suggestions and help them out, because Jupiter has been squaring this point. So we're going to see a lot of these people come out and be like, hey, I'm fucking losing it. Like, what is going on here? Why do I feel this way? And we can be the people that assist them. And the reason they come to you is because they know you understand them. They know, like, hey, this is my friend that talks about all this stuff, and like, they're gonna get me. They're gonna get why I'm feeling this way, even though I feel all wacky and out of sorts. So this combination is reprogramming the higher mind and the mind, this square. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is a square which is incorporating the energy of Mars. So it's a little forceful, but as soon as it separates, it kind of calms down, which Mercury travels very quickly, because the next day Mercury goes into the sign of Capricorn. And this is significant. We will talk about this later, because Mercury will be staying in the sign of Capricorn for some time, since it's going to retro in Capricorn. And you can start noting your calendar, because this is a pre-shadow state of Mercury in Capricorn. Not yet, but it's coming soon. There's certain degrees that Mercury is going to travel a few times, and it's going to be in this area of your chart where Capricorn sits. We also have the moon that goes into Gemini, and it starts making that conjunction to Mars, and also the opposition to the sun, which then triggers the full moon in the middle of the week. So then we go into Wednesday, where we have a solid Gemini full moon. And we start off the day by having some aspects from the sun to Juno, asteroid Juno. Now, this full moon has a very strong affiliation with marriages. And there's going to be a lot of changes within marriages, within the partnership, even if it's not like an actual marriage where you're married through church or, civil. As long as you guys live together, have properties together, have things together, children together, things like that, and you're still in an intimate relationship, this is going to impact you. Juno was the goddess that was married to Jupiter. And Juno's mythology is very complex. Now, Jupiter was a god that liked to have a lot of fun, and he hooked up with a lot of people, not just women, not just men, but all sorts of living things. And Juno was actually Jupiter's sister, and back then, because of the variety of people, they kind of would marry within family. So the mythology goes that Jupiter married Juno, and she was very beautiful, but he was not faithful to her. So this really hurt her self-esteem, and it brought up a very dark side of her, a side that is more connected to that energy of Scorpio, that's a little bit more jealous, insecure, fearful, and it's all due to natural triggers. I mean, who's not going to feel hurt by the infidelity of a partner, right? So she is within her right, but she brings that perspective within relationships of things that are triggering insecurities, triggering trust issues, triggering jealousy. It brings up those conversations. And Juno is sitting at 15 degrees in Pisces, and it's squaring both the sun, Mars, and the moon. So her signature in this lunation is as strong as Mars with that conjunction to the moon. We also have Chiron at 12 degrees in Aries, talks about healing. Now, this is it's not an exact sextile to the Mars and moon conjunction, but it does bring a sextile by orb. So there's opportunities of healing when having these conversations. The thing is, we have to be very careful with the conversation because Mars brings a certain bluntness to its communication, and it also brings scattered energy when it's in the sign of Gemini. So it doesn't necessarily deliver information in a very practical and tactile way when it's in the sign of Gemini. It's more interested in saying what it's thinking, being very straight out, very blunt, and then moving to the next thing because it likes to tackle a lot of things at once. So it might feel like it's very inconsiderate, or the information's being delivered in a way that it's not taking account how the other person feels, or like the big picture in the situation, because this is not a big picture type of energy. Now the sun brings that big picture, and Venus also being in the sign of Sagittarius brings love and conversation to a very big picture type of higher thinking energy. And Venus is actually conjuncting the galactic center by this point. It's almost exact. So Venus is being reprogrammed with divine information, with light codes, with this galactic noise that changes our higher perspective. And we're talking about relationships here because Venus is the planet of love, self-love, relationships, harmonizing conversations, negotiations, money, self-worth, things like that. So with this reprogramming of Venus and the opposition of Venus also with Mars and the moon, we have some rough conversations we're having. Venus also recently formed that square to Juno, bringing in a energy of being in a marriage, and then also the individual, the feminine, softer side of a partnership. So it doesn't necessarily just mean female, but it's just more of like the sensual, softer side versus the external, passionate, expressive side, which is more of the masculine quality. So we had that conversation earlier. So you're going to see this peak during this time. You're going to see that if we're able to manage this energy appropriately, we can get a lot of things resolved and we can grow from it because it is mutable energy. We can alchemize it and make something better for ourselves. However, if this is something that is very sensitive and you lead with emotions, this wouldn't be the time to talk about these things. Similar to the energy of last week, you can really, really feel some hurt feelings come to the surface, and it's not going to be productive for you. Sometimes we need these rough conversations to kind of, get a good cry and have these things out of our energy. But then there's other times that it's better to take baby steps. So just follow your lead, follow how you feel, and make sure that you're taking care of you first, and also considering others. So having a open mind and an open heart to harmonize the conversation versus dominate or be right, etc. Another positive aspect within the lunation is that we have Saturn really anchoring the conversation, really anchoring this mutable axis we have in our chart. And this axis is going to be different for everybody. But Saturn brings in a sextile from Aquarius to Sagittarius, and then it brings a trine from Aquarius to Gemini. And this helps ground the conversations. This brings a more serious perspective, but still thinking outside the box, still thinking innovation, still thinking how to use the foundation you currently have and evolve it and change it in a way that is going to be different, unique, and very diverse, and also benefits the relationship for the long term. So Saturn really is the saving grace in this aspect configuration. Saturn also calms Mars down. Mars does great in the sign of Capricorn, which is a sign that Saturn rules. And the reason why Mars does great there is because Mars becomes more practical, and it doesn't deplete its energy by scattering it or being impulsive. So Saturn does bring a very good grounding quality to the Mars expression. It also brings, through a trine to the moon, it brings much more seriousness. It doesn't allow an overflowing of emotional expression, which sometimes that can seem a little bit negative, but in this case, because of the amount of aspects that the moon is making and also the conjunction to Mars, Saturn, I really do feel, is going to play out a very supportive trine to the moon, because it can actually help us regulate our emotions and not feel too overwhelmed with all the changes that we need to make, all the things that are coming up that maybe we weren't even aware that were an issue. Even in friendships, there can be a lot. This is a very friendship driven axis, and there could be a lot of changes within friendships and things that come out and opinions that come out that you never even knew your friends had. And because you hold your friends to a certain esteem, these differences in opinion make you feel like who the heck's this person? Like, why are we so different? Like, when did we drift apart? And they can trigger some hurt, but then you realize they're still your friend and they still have the right to have their opinion. Or you can decide, you know what, this friendship has ran its course and this is something that I need to let go, and I still love them, but we have no more things in common. So it can bring up these conversations as well. And then we can move on to Thursday the 8th, when we have the conversation of the moon and the moon actually make a aspect to Saturn. So it's the first, out of the lunation, is the first planet that starts communicating with Saturn, and that happens at 4:41 a.m. Thursday the 8th, when the moon in Gemini makes an exact trine to Saturn at 20 degrees 22, and that is bringing that anchoring, solidifying energy. We also have Juno in the sign of Pisces making a sextile to Uranus, really opening our perspective and seeing things from a different way, and it's all connected to relationships. So it's a different way of seeing relationships, evolving the relationship, and really making this union very unique. Then on the same day at 12:27 p.m. PST, Mars retro makes a square to Juno. And this is where that force to continue to kick off and continue to work through marriage, partnership problems, things like that, or even your perspective in the marriage and partnership. It doesn't necessarily have to be a problem within both. It could be something that you want to change in your marriage. It could be something you want to change in your union. Marriages are very traditionally focused on a certain archetypal expressions where a partner stays at home and one goes to work. And that is super outdated, because nowadays we have different dynamics in partnerships. So this Mars square Juno can really put into action a new plan that really fits the union, which maybe for others it might not seem like the correct thing because it's out of the ordinary, but it's working for you guys, or you guys have to make it work. After this aspect, we have the moon going into the sign of Cancer, which settles the energetic and the emotional body, really connected to the element of starting new things, but in a very watery, in a very intuitive fashion. And then we have Venus on Friday the 9th, making a square to Jupiter. And this is a duplicate square of that galactic activation. So we started with Mercury on Monday making that square to Jupiter. Now we have Venus making that square to Jupiter right after it got reprogrammed from galactic information. So now it's more connected to the heart. We first had the mind be reprogrammed. Now we're having our heart be reprogrammed. And that same day after this square to Jupiter, Venus makes an ingression to Capricorn at 7:54 p.m., which brings a much more grounding expression to Venus. It's much more practical, more ambitious, more willing to work for material gains. So after it has a new perspective spiritually, it's ready to put these practices into tangible actions. So it's really great. I actually like Venus in Capricorn. I feel it has a very good expression. It's very practical and grounded and a very sexy too. Then on Saturday the 10th, we have the moon making a few aspects. The moon in Cancer making a sextile to the North Node in Taurus. Again, the moon in Cancer making a sextile to Uranus. And then the moon in Cancer making a trine to Neptune. And then we seal the weekend off with a moon in Cancer and open it up for the next week ahead, where the moon ingresses into the sign of Leo and starts with a fixed fiery expression. So that was the energy of this week. I really hope you enjoy this full moon that we have supercharged in the middle of the week. And in order for us to navigate this full moon easier, the crystal that I'm recommending is carnelian. Carnelian is the crystal that's been connected to the energy of Mars. It's very vitalizing. It's very action oriented. I use this crystal whenever I want to get shit done. It really charges up your energetic body. If you have carnelian, you place it next to your bed, I guarantee you're going to have very vivid, active dreams. If maybe you can sleep, because some people can't even sleep with carnelian next to their bed. I actually can, but I end up having very crazy, vivid, lucid dreams. So I try not to have this stone near my nightstand, but there's times that I do want to practice some lucid dreaming. So I have it there and I enjoy those days. So use this energy of carnelian to really channel this Mars moon conjunction and give Mars some grounded direction so you can go after your desires. So you can go after what you want with full energy and vitality, and also charge your energetic body. Carnelian is also good to level out the temper and make us more even-headed, less hot-headed, less reactive. So wear a carnelian bracelet, pendant, ring, whatever you can throughout this week, just so you can harness the energy of Mars, but in a very steady, productive way that you can get things done. Well, I really like to thank you for your time and for being here. Thank you so much for your support. If you like this podcast, don't forget to rate it. If you like this YouTube video, don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification bell, comment below. I answer and reply to all my comments. And as always, never stop wondering what's in your stars. This is the forecast for the week. Thank you so much, and see you later for AstroTalks. Bye-bye.